when comparing the WRX with the STI, it's really easy to just point out the obvious. Wheels real big, wing real big, brakes real big, everything real big. Now, when it comes to cars, bigger doesn't always mean better. And I know it may be easy to assume that because I own an STI that I think it's far superior to the WRX, but that's actually not true. Before picking this car up, I did heavily consider getting a VA WRX or even the newer VB. There are just about as many reasons for why you would choose one over the other. Well, obviously the STI is still the more desired car, but the price tag certainly reflects that, which is probably the reason why you're trying to decide in the first place. So today, I'll go over some basic differences between the WRX and the STI for this generation, the VA, besides just the obvious performance advantages you get with the STI. Well, on the outside, these cars look pretty much the same. So in this scenario, it's really what's on the inside that counts. Starting with the obvious, the engines are different. This was when the WRX introduced the new modernized FA20 engines to this platform, while the STI stayed with their old reliable EJ257. Now, of course, the STI still has a larger displacement than in the WRX, which, as you all know, there's no replacement for displacement. Nah, I'm just kidding. But the STI still uses port injectors, while the new WRX with the FA20 engines, they use direct injection, which can be considered a plus for better efficiency and fuel economy. And trust me, this STI absolutely guzzles gas. Now, if you're like me, that signature Subi rumble in itself is worth the price of admission, but in the newer VA and VB WRXs, they now use equal length headers instead of the unequal length headers found in the STI and older WRXs. And as you probably already know, you only get that signature Subi rumble from unequal length headers. Now, of course, you could just throw on some unequal length headers on the newer WRXs, but those cars weren't exactly designed to work with that, so you would be hurting performance a little bit. But don't get me wrong now, I still think those cars sound pretty good, but that traditional Subi rumble just sounds a little bit better. This next one is a little bit of a minor one, but if you're like me and enjoy doing your own oil changes, as these cars both require frequent oil changes, well, in the VA and VB WRXs, their oil filter is right on top inside the engine bay, easy to get to, while in the STI, you actually have to go underneath the car, remove the under tray, which requires removing several pop clips and bolts. Then you can get to the oil filter, which will be a little bit messier since it's underneath the car. But after doing it a few times, it's really not that bad. And I even have a tutorial how to do it yourself. On the VA and VB WRXs, they now use timing chains rather than the timing belt found on the STI and older WRXs, which can be kind of a big deal because as these cars are now generally getting up there in miles, it'll soon be time to change them out, which is certainly not very cheap, especially if it breaks. However, the timing chains have no factory interval for being changed out, so it should last the life of the car, which can be a good thing if you're trying to save money on a high mileage car and not have to worry about changing out the timing belt. But if your main priority is going after a more raw experience, I still believe that the STI has just a little bit of a leg up over the WRX. It has a hydraulic steering rack over the electric one found in the WRX. It has a much stiffer suspension, But arguably the number one difference has got to be the transmission. The transmission in these cars are so much stronger, and it's directly connected versus being cable driven like the one found in the WRX. But the VA and VB WRXs did upgrade their transmission to be a little bit stronger compared to the old 5-speed ones that were just known to be unreliable and made out of glass. These cars have some of the best all-wheel drive systems you could ask for, but one of the biggest advantages to the STI is the DCCD center controls, giving you complete control over the drivetrain, allowing you to choose how you want to distribute the torque between the front and rear wheels, and optimize it for just about any terrain. Most of the time I just leave it in auto, but it's definitely a cool feature to have. So overall, the WRX might be the better option for daily driving with its improved miles per gallon and more modern components, all at a lower entry price than the STI. And if you want, you can even turn it into a performance machine. With the right mods, it can even outperform a stock STI for less than the stock STI. However, if you're going after a more raw, traditional feel of old WRXs and STIs in a more modern vehicle, the STI might be for you. If you want to know why I chose the STI, be sure to check out a couple of my other videos and consider subscribing for more automotive content.